Thank you so much, Prime Minister. Let me just say a few words about three key areas where there is convergence or consensus has emerged globally over the last several decades. The first is the importance of a dynamic, resilient private sector to drive growth and development. It's happening faster in countries in the West than in other places, but it's happening. It's happening in Vietnam as well. It's globally recognized that the private sector has to lead growth and has to be dynamic and vibrant. This has happened with integration as countries have moved from state-led to more private sector approaches. The second area of convergence is really around the damage that corruption does to economies and to the globe and to people's development prospects. Estimates suggest that corruption globally costs about 5% of GDP. And within that, we've also seen the costs of poorly run private sectors or poorly run corporate sectors. We've seen it in the Asian financial crisis. We've seen this in the more recent crisis and the huge costs of bailing out the corporate sector in different countries. So there again, there's convergence about the need to fight corruption. There's convergence about the importance of strong corporate governance and business integrity. And a third area where there's convergence is around the standards and the principles for fighting corruption, and for good governance, and for business integrity. I know countries are different, the pace of reform will differ from country to country, depending on the legal and regulatory framework, on the recognition by government leaders, by people in business, of the importance of change, on the governance infrastructure in different countries. But at the same time, I think it's become clear that this notion about different standards for Anglo-Saxon governance and different standards for Asian governance is irrelevant. I think globally, we're all moving towards the same principles or similar principles for good governance and good business integrity. An example is the OECD principles. In 2013, the World Bank did a review of the implementation of the OECD standards in Vietnam, and the results showed that Vietnam had made progress since the last assessment in 2006. But on over 80% of the principles, Vietnam was either only partially meeting those standards or not meeting them at all. It was only on 2 of the principles that Vietnam fully met the standards. And so Vietnam was lagging behind several competitors in the region, despite the progress that's been made. So significant work remains to be done. I think whichever country that you look at, it's important that individuals who lead in government, that they recognize the problems, whether it's on broad governance or whether it's on corporate governance and business integrity. So leaders in government, leaders in business, it takes knowledge on the government side of the risk, the damage, and how to fight corruption. It takes knowledge of the business leaders, of their expertise, and it takes incentives to government leaders, to business leaders to act responsibly and to lead in the right way that will avoid risks to economies. Now, as with several things, it doesn't happen overnight. You know, it's something that will need strong political commitment, strong commitment in the private sector, but it needs to begin, and it needs to gather pace and momentum as it goes along. So, on the side of the World Bank, we're very happy about what happened in the Business Forum, the creation of a working group on business integrity, and the broader work and the discussions around business integrity, the Vietnam Business Forum, the BCCI. We look forward to supporting this.
Well, thank you very much indeed. We've also got Milton Lawson here from Freshfields, so I'll come to you next. But I understand that 2 issues here are, one is the acceptance of decisions that are made in international arbitration, whether they actually get accepted and delivered. And second, this problem if you have an inward investing company in conflict with a Vietnamese company in court and the fairness of that decision-making process. But Milton, you've got the experience here, so please give us a contribution.
Okay, thank you very much. perhaps a kind of a general comment on what has been said. As a lawyer operating here, I operate, if you like, at the coalface of doing business. And there is no question that there are challenges for foreign investors, foreign businessmen operating here. Transparency International, in its last report, put Vietnam at 119 out of 175 countries. I think more importantly, the report said that in terms of the score that Vietnam had, it had remained the same for 3 consecutive years. So it's pretty clear we need to have some changes made to make this a more competitive environment in which foreign investors and foreign businessmen can operate. Talking specifically about enforcement and obtaining justice here, Vietnam is a party to the New York Convention, so at least in theory, foreign arbitration awards can be enforced here. For the most part, not foreign court judgments, with few exceptions. How effective that system is, I think, is questionable. There have been relatively few enforcements of arbitrations, foreign arbitrations here. Possibly more importantly is the functioning of the court system. And again, I think most people who have had anything to do with the courts here would say that that system leaves quite a lot to be desired and is not, one cannot guarantee the kind of justice that you might be able to find in Hong Kong court, in Singapore court, in the UK court. So these are problems for foreign investors and ones that need to be fixed. Obviously, we applaud the work that is being done by the various international organisations, as well as what the government is doing in the form of Resolution 19 and Project 12. But from a business point of view, more needs to be done and quickly. This is a systemic problem.
Thank you. We're short of time, so I'm just going to ask the 3 quick contributions from the floor. I think we've got Grant Thornton, Ken Atkinson's here. Ken, brief thought from you.
First of all, thank you for this wonderful and eagerly awaited visit to Vietnam. You've just visited Indonesia, I understand its ranks very low on the transparency index, and Singapore was ranked very high. So I wondered whether you have a takeaway from that you could share with us. To the panel, how do you drive integrity and transparency when government officials are paid so poorly compared to a lot of the population in the country? Thank you.
Well, what's so striking about Singapore and Indonesia? In Singapore, which has one of the least corrupt governments and business systems anywhere in the world, is just the natural stopping off point for businesses from around the world. There are 1,000 British businesses that have chosen to make Singapore their home in Southeast Asia. So I think that speaks volumes. The second point I'd make is it's one of the countries that has gone not only from middle income status, but has shot into upper income status and is actually far wealthier than the United Kingdom. And I think that ease of doing business, that predictability, that certainty, is absolutely key to the country's success. The brutal truth for all countries, Britain included, is that no business has to invest in your country. It's probably true that you need to be in America, you probably need to be in China. You don't have to be anywhere else, you can choose. And a country like Vietnam, with 90 million people, with a fast-growing economy, is exactly the sort of country that international businesses should be investing in, and more are. But the brutal brutal truth is they don't have to. There are alternatives. And I think this issue of predictability and integrity will be one of the absolute keys. Because trust is at the heart of the whole business system. One last point from let's hear from a business. We've got David Champion from Bayer. And then what I'll do is I'll ask the Prime Minister to say a few words summing up, and then we'll close.
Prime Minister and the people here. Chambers of Commerce, we see lots of efforts here. I've been working with this forum of business, trying to get integrity working with companies here in Vietnam, both foreign and local. How should business, Chambers of Commerce, and the government here in Vietnam work more smartly to create a fairer playing field, if you like, to place integrity at the heart of business?
Right. Deputy Prime Minister, perhaps you'd like to give your take on those two questions and then say some words summing up from the government point of view. Thank you.
Cảm ơn thật quý vị. Đúng là trên bảng xếp hạng về chống tham nhũng Việt Nam thì ở mức còn thấp, nhưng mà nó rõ ràng có bước tiến bộ. Tôi mới hội nghị quốc tế về vấn đề này. Và Việt Nam cần quyết tâm chính trị và thể hiện bằng những văn bản pháp luật cũng như trong chỉ đạo để mà cương quyết phòng chống tham nhũng minh bạch hóa. Như này những cái luật đã nêu đó là nghị quyết đề án 12 của 19 của chính phủ đã thể hiện quyết tâm về vấn đề này. Nhưng mà tôi đồng ý với các ngài rằng việc thứ nhất là chúng ta phải làm đó là gì? Cái hệ thống, cái hành pháp tư pháp lập pháp, nhất là tòa án, nhất là trọng tài, nhất là giám sát phải làm tốt hơn. Và thứ hai, đúng như ngài đã nêu, phải nâng cao mức sống cao hơn cho cán bộ công chức là vụ công. Nhưng mà không chờ điều đó, chính phủ Việt Nam như tâm cách chúng tôi sẽ là môi trường trong nhóm đầu của ASEAN thời gian đấy, và đặc biệt là liêm chính trong kinh doanh. Nhân dịp đây chúng tôi cũng đề nghị quý vị một cái điều là hãy nói không có tham nhũng, kể cả cơ quan nhà nước và các doanh nghiệp. Việt Nam có câu rất nổi tiếng: tại Anh, tại Ả, tại cả nuôi đường. Hai bên có phối hợp với nhau để làm tốt cái yêu cầu này, và đó cũng là thể hiện cái tình cảm của chúng ta đối với các doanh nghiệp, mà cũng là hành động cụ thể để chào mừng ngài Thủ tướng David Cameron đến thăm Việt Nam này.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. I want to thank everyone for coming, for the businesses who have contributed to this, to our friends from the World Bank. But I particularly want to thank the Vietnamese government, because it's much easier to talk about the things that we're brilliant at than it is to talk about the things where we need to improve. And as a politician, I know that very, very clearly. Vietnam is absolutely top ranking in terms of an open economy, top ranking in terms of growth, top ranking in terms of taking people out of poverty, which is actually what growth is all about. So, I've been so impressed by what I've seen here in Vietnam, the growth record, the poverty fighting record. But I think it's very good of you, Deputy Prime Minister, to take part in an event like this, when we talk about some of the difficult stuff, how we tackle corruption, how we ensure business integrity, how we have clear rules. But I'm absolutely certain that it's getting those things right that will make sure that Vietnam is as successful in the next decade as it has been in the last decade. And that's why I wanted to come today and hold this event with you and with colleagues from the World Bank and elsewhere. And with that, a very great thank you, and I look forward to coming back to Vietnam and talking about these and other issues and sharing in the enormous success in your country. Thank you very much indeed.